This speech is a very short one because there's a 4.5-minute audio clip which we are hoping will play. So I'm just giving you the proviso in case you're wondering why this is so short. I think the message of vulnerability, the message of being yourself has come through this evening with Siobhan and Ciara's speeches. We embarked on this journey with a grant application which Anne Drury identified, myself and Maria put it in, and basically it was from Creative Ireland, and their vision is that every person in Ireland should have the opportunity to realise their full creative potential. So we feel the same with Toastmasters Mullingar, and that's how Creative Voices Ireland was born. We felt that there was an opportunity for us to allow all our members to fulfill really all our community. You know, that community is obviously the community that's here today, which is the Toastmasters community, the further community that is the Midlands and further beyond, and even Ireland. And we wanted to help everybody, you know, embrace their full creativity and hit their potential. And I suppose we want to kind of develop a cultural map that we can all learn from these people. We can understand what ignites them, what their creativity is. How can we learn from them? How can we be better at our own creative piece? And I think the thing we have to understand is, it asked me the question, what stops us from reaching this creative potential? And I think that's the big question for all of us. And I think when we come to Toastmasters, we enter a safe environment that helps us learn and grow. But I think fundamentally, a quote I've seen is, the worst enemy to creativity is self-doubt. And I think that's something that at Toastmasters is really embraced. And all the guests on our podcast were so unbelievably vulnerable. They came past the self-doubt and they gave us everything. They were themselves. And I think that's what Toastmasters teaches you. It teaches you to be yourself. And I hope with the journey of the podcast that we went on, we feel that creativity is allowing yourself make mistakes. And that's what we're trying to do. We're actively trying to do that. And I think that's what everybody's trying to do here. I think it's the one message that we can all take away from it. Creativity is imagination, and vulnerability is it's the permission and the courage to truly be ourselves and to be open to uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And with that, I want to introduce you to an excerpt from our most recent podcast with Inklings members, Brian McLaughlin and Lorraine Murphy, where they talk about creativity and vulnerability. And I think that's the solution, creative vulnerability. Thank you.
To the group, can you just maybe just identify some of the other benefits that coming together with a lot of people or a group of people, of like-minded people, Brian, or even not like-minded people? How does that work in the Inklings group?
It works to produce something magical and something that really is unexpected, and it can't really be bottled as such. It's not something that's predicted. Every meeting is sort of different. We have people from many backgrounds, and of course we have different perspectives. But of course it's the actual unification of the various perspectives, new ways to look at things, new ideas, new sort of phrases, new everything. And it's just creative. It's creation on a blank page. We don't know what we're going to create. And one of the things I do during the writing workshop or the writing meeting, I always have an exercise in the actual group. And this tree creates a branch in which we get gateways to many fantastic and brilliant and emotional and earthly perspectives on the same line, on the same image. I think it's really terrific.
Could you give me an example maybe of just one of the ideas that Brian has thrown out maybe at recent meetings to, you know, kind of encourage people obviously to come up with something new and unique and just to challenge themselves?
Sometimes there'll be little lines that come out during the meeting and then Brian will set it as an exercise. So for example, last week we had, I don't mean to enforce St. Patrick on anybody. And the other one was, anything that happens before the but doesn't count. And that is in terms of, you look really nice, but your hair could be nicer. So you can just disregard everything that happens before the but. So, and then we go and we write something in and around 400 words. Sometimes people write more, but we're very conscious about not taking too much airtime as well. So it's about 400 words and you go off and you do that and you come back. And the stuff that comes back can be funny, it can be poetry. We often have poetry, even within the 20 minutes of our exercise, somebody will write a really beautiful poem. And yeah, it's just a place where you can completely be yourself, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, Lorraine. I think it's kind of one of the messages that kind of came out of the Toastmasters piece. I think you can just be yourself, and it's about uncovering yourself. And I suppose bearing some level of yourself too as well. Obviously creativity, you have to produce something. So I think it's, you know, and not having a judgmental area really is so important, and people being supported, you know.
Philip, you really touch on a really important part there that I think makes people afraid of creativity, and you are completely vulnerable when you share, and you have to make sure that you're with people that understand and that get it. It's almost like a counselling thing, that because when you're writing, like you're writing from your soul, I suppose. So you need to make sure that you're with people who not only get it, but that you're safe with. And I think that's really why Inklings works so well, is because people have cried there, they've laughed there, they've shared their deepest things, and they still come back the next week, which is huge. So yeah, you're really exposing yourself when you write, but do it anyway.
Yeah, it sounds, Lorraine, like you externalize your internal world and respect it.
You do, and you can see people coming along, because I've been involved for 5 years now, and you can see it happening in people that arrive. They kind of bring themselves as they were, and within 2 or 3 months, they're completely pared back, and the egos just are left at the door, and everybody just comes in 100% themselves, and it's just beautiful, to be honest. That sounds very hoity-toity, but it actually is. It's lovely.
It's funny you say that, Lorraine, because there's a quote out there from Brené Brown. She's a shame coach in America. You know, in America they've got coaches for everything, but her quote is, "To be vulnerable is to be beautiful." And I think that's exactly what you've captured there. You know, you said it in those words. And I think that's the strength of it.
Madam Toastmaster.
Philip, well done. You set yourself a challenge, and you certainly rose to that challenge. A lovely introduction. Well, I always love your wonderful speaking voice. You speak with such clarity. And you've given us a new method of communication in Toastmasters, the podcast. Well done. A very compelling podcast. Encourages all to become creative and not to be afraid. And I love the quote, and it'll stick in my mind. To be vulnerable is to be beautiful. Philip, a very professional podcast. And I don't know how long it took you to get it to that perfection, but well done. It was perfect. The sound was excellent. And I know you were a bit anxious that you might have problems there, but there was no need to worry. The content was very good. I would love to have heard more, which tells me that the audience did love the podcast. My first time, I'm afraid that I cannot come up with a recommendation, Philip. But well done, Philip, on your creativity, and congrats on your podcast, Philip.